October 14, 1966, began with the deceptive calm of a Mediterranean autumn. In the Hamra district of Beirut, the air was thick with the scent of jasmine and expensive tobacco. This was the peak of the Lebanese miracle, a period where the small nation seemed to have defied the gravity of Middle Eastern instability. But by 8:30 a.m., the facade began to crack. The crowds gathering outside the headquarters of Intrabank were not the usual businessmen in sharp suits. These were terrified depositors, mothers clutching savings passbooks, merchants who had their entire working capital inside, and foreign investors who had heard the whispers in the cafes of Geneva and London. By noon, the heavy glass and brass doors were locked. Inside, the world's most ambitious banking experiment was gasping for air. $70 million had been withdrawn in just 4 days, a coordinated run that would have toppled any institution. When the auditors finally entered the main vault that evening, they found a chilling reality. In a bank with assets valued at over $500 million, there was exactly $330,000 in cash remaining. The man at the center of this storm, Yousef Beidas, was not in the building. He was in Europe, frantically moving between meetings with the masters of global finance, begging for a liquidity bridge that his own government had already decided to burn. This was not a mere bankruptcy. It was a financial assassination. To understand why it happened, one must look at the man the Lebanese establishment could never quite stomach, the genius from Jerusalem. Yousef Beidas was born in 1912 into the intellectual aristocracy of Palestine. His father, Khalil Beidas, was a titan of the Nahda, the Arab Renaissance, a scholar who pioneered the Arabic novel and translated the Russian greats into the language of the Levant. However, Yousef possessed a different kind of brilliance, a mathematical intuition that saw the world not just in words, but in the flow of capital. At 21, he was already managing the foreign exchange desk at Barclays Bank in Jerusalem. By the time World War II ended, he was a senior executive at the Arab Bank. He moved with a speed and a modern sensibility that often unsettled the traditionalists of the era. Then came 1948. The Nakba, the catastrophe, shattered the world Beidas knew. Along with hundreds of thousands of other Palestinians, Beidas was forced into exile. He arrived in Beirut as a refugee, carrying little more than his pregnant wife and a profound sense of displacement. In the 1940s, Lebanon was a country defined by the Maronite-Sunni National Pact. It was a clubby, merchant-run republic that expected refugees to remain in the periphery. They did not expect a Palestinian to walk into the heart of Beirut and outgamble the house. Beidas did not wallow in the tragedy of 1948. Instead, he opened a tiny money exchange office in a cramped room in Beirut. He had $4,000 in capital and a team of 4 people. He called it International Traders. The name was a stroke of marketing genius. It sounded like a global conglomerate before it even had a second telephone line. Beidas understood that, in the post-war era, money was moving faster than ever before. While traditional Lebanese banks sat on gold and waited for conservative interest, Beidas focused on velocity. He famously noted that, in the currency markets, one could turn their entire capital 6 times in a single day. By 1951, International Traders was so successful that it converted into a full commercial bank, Intrabank. Beidas was not a rentier banker, he was a builder. He saw Lebanon not as a tiny coastal strip, but as the indispensable bridge between the burgeoning oil wealth of the Gulf and the industrial machinery of the West. Under his leadership, Intrabank became the primary engine of the Lebanese economy. While the old money families of Beirut were content with trade and real estate, Beidas was a visionary of infrastructure. He didn't just lend money to existing companies. He identified what a modern nation needed and built it from scratch. He took a struggling local carrier, Middle East Airlines, and transformed it into a world-class airline, making Beirut the aviation hub of the region. He envisioned Casino du Liban as a premier entertainment destination that would rival Monte Carlo, drawing the world's elite to Lebanese shores. He financed the modernization of the port of Beirut, ensuring that every piece of cargo entering the Arab world passed through his financial ecosystem. His genius attracted trust from Arabs and foreigners alike, who saw in his innovative approach a secure and profitable avenue for their investments. pouring capital into Lebanon and fueling its economic boom. By 1960, Intrabank was a global phenomenon. It had branches on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, in London's West End, in Paris, Frankfurt, and Rio de Janeiro. Time magazine and Fortune profiled him as the architect of Lebanese banking. Charles de Gaulle reportedly remarked that he wished France had a man of Beidas' caliber as finance minister. But Beidas' meteoric rise and unconventional methods earned him powerful enemies within the traditional Lebanese establishment. His success challenged the old guard, who saw his influence as a threat to their entrenched power. While he was traveling abroad, desperately seeking a liquidity bridge to save his bank, his competitors seized their opportunity. They orchestrated a coordinated run on Intrabank, spreading rumors and inciting panic among depositors. The Lebanese government, instead of supporting its most successful institution, sided with the old money. They refused to intervene, effectively sealing Intrabank's fate. This was not a mere bankruptcy. It was a financial assassination, a deliberate act to dismantle his empire and remove him from power. The news of Intrabank's collapse sent shockwaves through Lebanon and beyond. The Lebanese government, instead of aiding Beidas, issued an international arrest warrant through Interpol, accusing him of financial mismanagement. Beidas, with his family, sought refuge in Brazil. However, he was arrested there upon the request of the Lebanese authorities. After a period of detention, he was eventually released, but the ordeal had taken its toll. He traveled to Switzerland, a broken man, his empire shattered, his reputation tarnished by those who feared his genius. Soon after, he was diagnosed with cancer. In 1968, Yousef Beidas, the genius from Jerusalem, the architect of modern Lebanon, passed away. His death marked not only the end of a remarkable life, but also the final chapter of the Intrabank empire, a testament to both his extraordinary vision and the ruthless forces that conspired against him. The Lebanese miracle, so closely tied to his ambition, would never quite recover its former glory. His story remains a cautionary tale of innovation, power, and betrayal in the volatile landscape of the Middle East.